Hi, I am Alfonso El Guapo Muchacho. That means the handsome one. And today I'm going to talk about a problem that a lot of you seem to be having, and that's getting stuck in a short loop at the beginning stages of making a track. So unless you are absolutely insane, you will agree that the best way to create a track is to make a short loop where you can build all of your track's elements on top of each other. This way you can work out how all the elements interact and plausibly work out what the most energetic part of your track will sound like. This is 9,000% more easier than trying to build a track from start to finish, as in work out what your first 10 seconds would sound like and then your next 10 seconds would sound like. Only a complete madman would work this way. So there are probably thousands of reasons why you'd get stuck in a loop. I guess the most common reason is that you listen to it for so long, trying to perfect it, and you can't imagine it sounding like anything else. You get emotionally attached to it, and you don't know how to break free. Bit like my last girlfriend. It's worth saying that I do not have this problem. In fact, I have the opposite issue, where I'll want to get into the arrangement process as quickly as possible. So sometimes I have to force myself to stay in the loop to get everything right, so I don't have to fix all the elements later. I'm so pumped to get making the track. I'm like a rabid dog straining at the leash, barking at parked cars. Woof. So here's the loop I created for this tutorial. It's nothing special, but just something I lashed together. Take a listen. As you can hear, it's a monster track. We've got some tribal drums for the bass line, this harrowing pitched drone over the top. I'm using the DX7 to create this rhythm over the top that sounds like somebody hitting a bottle. Lots of chug and a few bleak pad sounds all over it. Sexy stuff. So how would I go about expanding this track from this loop? Well, first things first, you'll notice I'm using Arrangement View in Ableton Live. I never ever use Session View for creating music. Session View is the live side of Ableton Live. It's Live's big selling point over other traditional DAWs because you can actually trigger clips in real time. I do use it for live performances, but never for making tracks. There seems to be a big trend in people starting tracks in Session View and then migrating over to Arrangement View. And in my view, this might be causing some people to get stuck. They might not even have a loop, just a collection of clips playing in Session View. And then the jump of even getting that into Arrangement View might be too big for people's brains to take. So I'm not saying don't use Session View for building tracks, just that if you're getting stuck there, try doing it in Arrangement View. It's worked for most artists since the dawn of time. So back to our loop then. How do we expand it? Well, as I said earlier, this loop is the peak of the track. It's every element we have, so naturally, to me, it's the focal point. Maybe we won't have every element playing at once in the track, but it'll probably be quite close. So logically, I always think, what do I want to come before the focal point? For me, it's usually the breakdown. So as I'm endlessly cycling through the loop, I'm always thinking, what would it sound like just before this point? Sometimes it helps to turn elements on and off as we listen to it to help us imagine. Let's give it a crack. Dropping the drum and the bass elements has to have the biggest impact on the sound. So already you have an idea for what can come before this part. Let's just solo the melodic content and see what that would sound like. Okay, that's pretty good. So that could easily work just before the drums come back in. So my natural instinct here is just to make a complete copy of the loop and use the first part as the breakdown, and the second part should remain almost completely as it is. For the breakdown, I'm going to remove everything that isn't a melody. But as I don't have a lot going on in the last part, I'm just going to chop off the end and move it all up slightly. Right, let's give this a listen and see what's up. So already we have the basis for the breakdown. We're going to need some extra elements or effects here to create more tension. So I'm going to drop in a quick snare roll and something else just to get things moving. Okay, I've done a very quick and rough build up. Take a listen. So I drop the pads once the breakdown is finished. I think it gives a nice contrast between the melodies and the breakdown, and then the solid drum and rhythm once the beat comes back in. Already we're fully out of loop mode. The song now has two chapters, the anticipation and the payoff. I almost always build outwards from the center. From here, I'll probably expand further into the track and create some sort of simple outro, and then when I'm happy with that, I'd make some sort of transition into the breakdown. I might go for a kick drum fading out or some big build using all the percussive elements. Either way, it seems logical to my primitive ape brain to work this part out next. I usually just keep adding parts to the beginning and ends of my loop until I have a finished song. So what if you're struggling with a vision and you don't know where to take your track? I personally would just do what I did, copy and paste and start removing some elements. If you find yourself trying to add elements in instead, it's probably not working and you've either been listening to it for too long or your loop wasn't right in the first place. Take a break and then start again with a fresh pair of ears. Another tactic is to copy another track. So drag and drop in a track you like and then copy the arrangement. You don't even have to listen to your track whilst you're doing this. Just copy when to bring elements in and out. So if in your reference track all of the hi-hats are removed at a certain point, you remove them in your track. Just follow the flow of the track and it will do one of two things for you. Either it will help you come up with an interesting arrangement and make decisions for you, or it will expose your track as lacking in something. For example, your reference track might be able to plod along for 30 seconds with just the kick, bass and hats playing, whereas yours might sound really, really dull. This helps focus in on specific problems that you may not have noticed, or you may have tried to mask with your arrangement. This method really forces you to confront any problem areas in your music. Another way to get out of the loop is to use some sort of external hardware. This doesn't have to be a synth. It could be a drum machine or an effects box, anything where you've got a lot of hands-on controls. Just have the loop playing and then hit record and jam over the top. I've done this many times with drum machines and effects pedals, having different parts of your track sent to different effects and then just record in what you do in real time. If you're working completely in the box, you can emulate this by assigning some knobs to a controller and then using this to send different elements to effect sends, or you can control filter sweeps, EQ cutoffs, delay timings, anything. The point is to start getting some movement and variation in your track. If you play around for 5 minutes, I guarantee you'll come up with something interesting. And as long as you remember to hit the record button, you can use this part to help your track progress. I think the main problem that people face isn't that they don't know what to do and they don't know where the track should go next. They just get so afraid of ruining what they've got that they don't want to expand out of the loop. They think that if they expand out and it doesn't work, then the track's somehow ruined and they'll never be able to get it back. It's quite simple. You just make another copy of the file and expand that. If it doesn't work, delete it, start again, go back to it. But the best tool I think you can use is time. Have a go at expanding it out into a full track, listen to it, and then walk away from it for a week. Come back and listen with a fresh pair of ears. If it doesn't work, go back to the loop. And if the loop isn't working and you've been working on it for a couple of weeks, then maybe the loop isn't very good after all. So that's what I think anyway. Let me know what your struggles are around breaking out of loops. How have you overcome them? Maybe you haven't. Let me know. Let's talk.